Good evening, good evening, good evening, Facebook community. It is Wednesday, May 25th, 2022, and we are back for another meeting of Diverse Minds with Keisha Hamilton. I am Keisha Hamilton, your host, and I am excited to be with you tonight. I'm not sure if you can tell if I sound super excited or not, but I actually am excited to be with you all tonight. I was muted for a minute, so I'm trying to see now if I have volume. Yes, we have volume. All right, welcome back for another meeting of Diverse Minds with Keisha Hamilton. Like I said, I'm excited to be with you all tonight. It'll just be me tonight, though. So back to our old days of us together. I'll quickly go over our definitions because I want to get right into thoughts and prayers, which we're going to discuss tonight. Feel free to add comments in the comment section if you choose to while we're discussing, but right into, we focus on diversity, equity, inclusion, anti-racism from a historically authentic lens here on a meeting of Diverse Minds. So we talk about diversity defined being our differences. We focus on, we acknowledge that the differences that most of us see all the time are our skin tones, our hair textures, body shapes and sizes. The differences can also be who we love, just all those differences. The difference that's most important that we talk about here on a meeting of Diverse Minds with Keisha Hamilton are our psychological differences. So the way we view life, the way we process life, the lens that we see life through, so the way we think, really, those differences really impact the way that we engage the world. And it is those differences that we are trying to impact and trying to engage and trying to, that's the difference that really makes a difference here on the Meet the Diverse Minds. We also talk about equity and inclusion. Inclusion being, so we gave them the example before, a little girl with her tea party, her inviting all of her friends to the table. So a lot of times you've heard the example that inclusion is being invited to the party. That again is akin to this idea of a little girl having a tea party and inviting, all of her teddy bears to the table so everybody has a seat. And so supposedly we've been inclusive. That's not inclusion. To actually be inclusive, as we define it here on Amiga Diverse Minds, is where you not only have a seat at the table, but you have decided what the table looks like, where the table is located, what goes on the table, what surrounds the table, what atmosphere the table is in. It's being at the beginning stages of creation is what actual inclusion is, right? So it's, again, having a foundational role in creating whatever is impacting you. You can also consider even abortion laws and different things that are trying to be changed by the Supreme Court and that group of individuals not being inclusive in the sense that, much of America is against them trying to change Roe v. Wade. And yet the people who are most impacted by, Roe v. Wade being changed are women, particularly women who are childbearing. And then the husbands and fathers as well, they're also impacted. But the women who need to be, whose voices should be heard and who should be creating and or deciding that are not being included. And so you don't have inclusion there. You understand? Should an ideal situation, which we shouldn't have to have ideal situations be like the very basic of humanity. But, we live in a country where that's just the reality today. It won't always be that way. But the ideal situation for that would be where women only are the ones deciding when, if, how, et cetera, when it comes to abortion, et cetera. Okay. So that would be inclusion, though. Those are impacted by an issue or whatever's going on. They are the ones making the decisions on everything. They don't get a part of it. They don't get just invited to the table to sit down and sit there like a skeleton at a table or like a teddy bear at a table and having absolutely no input, or the input that they are having it not being included and not being incorporated into what is being created. That's not true inclusion. Okay. True inclusion is you are the creators of everything and every part of it. That's inclusion. Equity, we define it as individuals having what they need in order to succeed. Equity is not fair. We recognize that each individual person, each individual community, each individual group has specific needs that are specific to themselves. We recognize the equity is not fair, meaning that what I need, the next person may or may not need, and based on our needs is how we is what we're receiving, right? So if I need a $300,000 house, I need that actually right now, just so you know. Sometimes our needs don't get met. But if I need, a house that costs $300,000 and the person sitting right next to me needs a house that costs $50,000, when we get our needs met, that disparity between what each of us have received, it is unfair when you consider equality, okay? Because a lot of people get equality and equity confused, okay? Equality is this idea that everybody has to have the same thing in order for it to be fair, okay? Equality leads us to be bad stewards of our money. Equality is what we could have had years ago had this intentional disparity and disparate conditions not been created through capitalism, white supremacy, and all that junk. But we are in a space of junk right now, and we're trying to get back to a space where everybody has what they need. And that means some people are going to need more than other people. And equity is giving each individual person and our community what they need in order to be successful. And we define success our own selves. No one out there, no one in any space other than you get to define your success. So if I say this is what I need, then that's what I need to be given, or whatever, and we can talk multifaceted on equity and need and all that, but just know that equity is, like I said, giving an individual what they need in order to succeed. You clearly need to be able to know what they need. So talking to them is what you do to find out what they need. So you'd have to also believe them when they say what they need. You'd have to acknowledge that there are barriers in place that have kept them from receiving their needs as to why maybe their need is greater than others. And then you'd have to be willing to give them the full extent of their need, regardless to what other people are saying around about the unfairness of it. Okay, so diversity, equity, inclusion, there we have that. We also talk about anti-racism on a meeting of diverse minds, primarily because, DEI is almost like the I heard one woman that I admire very much say, I wish the DEI would just DIE, die. And I agree with her, because what you generally get today for DEI is just this, let's love everybody. Let's recognize our unconscious bias. Let's, have cultural, awareness where we are thankful for, and that's not what we need. That's not even actually what DEI ought to be. DEI is accountability. DEI is calling out your humanity and asking it to rise up and wake up and act. DEI it's not this love everybody mumbo jumbo mess that doesn't require anything of you. Okay, so I agree that the DEI that most people are getting is a waste of time. Okay, here on the Meeting of Diverse Minds, it's about accountability. It's about acknowledgement. It's about again, transformation. Okay. We were talking as well about anti-racism. So you have to know what racism is in order to know what anti-racism is. In order to be able to fight against racism, you'd have to know what it is, right? Because you could be hitting what shouldn't be hit or harming what shouldn't be harmed in your attempt to, fight against something that you don't fully understand. Most people don't fully understand racism, which is why we spend time talking about it on a Meeting of Diverse Minds, because we recognize that people just really don't know what it is. So racism is basically race prejudice. So this is this idea that I am against you. I don't like you based on your race, coupled with power. Okay. Racism is not prejudice alone. And they are very similar, but it's not prejudice alone, because prejudice is not coupled with power. Okay, I've said this numerous times, and I think it's a good thing to say so people can understand it, even though it's a little confusing as well. But Black and brown people cannot be racist. They cannot be racist. Can they be prejudiced? Can they be discriminatory? Can they be biased? Yes to all three. Okay, always. They're human. Those are human things that we can do. Okay, but can they be racist? No, they cannot. They do not. We do not possess the amount of power that white individuals possess in this country. We don't have our race being criminalized in laws. Like we don't, white people, I'm sorry, don't have their race criminalized in laws, criminalized in legislation. Black and brown individuals our race has been criminalized and vilified and all the other whatevers there are that make us supposedly these horrible people that should be killed on sight without guns in our hands, without an opportunity to comply. So racism, again, is this racial prejudice coupled with power. Anti-racism is an acknowledgement of that racism and an intentional effort to eliminate that racism. Yeah, that's what anti-racism is. And it starts individually and personally. You know, a lot of times our allies are asking, what can they do? How can they be supportive? What you can do is you can sit back and read, educate yourself, transform yourself, support Black and Brown leadership, stop talking. You know, they talk entirely too much. Stop talking, stop explaining, stop centering yourself. You know, that's what allies can do. So, okay, let's get on to thoughts and prayers. I do not intend to be on here very long tonight. I think like much of America, is just in a difficult place. I thought that, you know, I'm not even gonna say that because, you know, we think that after every tragedy that, you know, can it be more, you know, and then more comes. But, you know, I have to give space and acknowledgement to our brothers and sisters, our Black brothers and sisters who were murdered in Buffalo, New York, last week or so, 8, 9, 10, 11 days ago, intentionally targeted and killed by a white supremacist. I have other terms that probably aren't nice, so I won't say them, but by a white supremacist monster in the grocery store. And a good example of how Black and Brown people cannot be racist, and white people are the only group of people who can and are racist, and why that's so is because of the legalization and the lens that we see and view life through. This individual shot and killed 10 individuals, 10 Black people in Buffalo, New York, and injured others, if I'm not mistaken, but was taken alive as an armed, you know, an AR-15, some automatic rifle that he's carrying while he's in full, you know, gear, you know, helmet and all kind of other paraphernalia, clearly a danger to anybody looking at him, anybody in his presence. And yet somehow he survived this incident. And then we have a gentleman, I forget his name and I apologize, a Black gentleman who was just killed here. My son, you know, it's crazy having children, just being Black. And I have biracial children. I don't know if some of you all know that I have biracial children, and we recognize in this home that when they are out there, they are Black children. You know, we recognize the light skin privilege and all that stuff. We have conversations, but at the end of the day, when my babies walk out this house, they are Black children. My sons wear hoodies. They wear their hair like Black boys wear their hair. They walk and talk like Black boys. They respond like Black boys, you know. So my son came and showed me the video of the young man who the cops, you know, literally jumped out the car with his gun extended and said to him, you know, show me your hands, shot him, and then cussed because he realized that, you know, he just, show me your hands, shoot, and then cussed because he realized that he shot this young man. But just thinking of the fact that my boys have to see that, I have to see that that's a very real reality. My son is driving. He's 16 now and he's driving. And anyways, though, but he died. And then we have this brown child who shot up, I don't know how to pronounce the school, the city's name, but Robb Elementary in Texas, here yesterday. And he was killed on site. And I'm not trying to compare the two as far as the two people, how they should have been handled, but acknowledging that this white boy who was fully armed, somehow, some way, cops felt safe enough to disarm him without killing him, is an acknowledgement that needs to be made, while Black unarmed boys day and night, we just had a conference. I was fortunate to attend a conference over the weekend with an amazing organization. And one of the gentlemen, he lifted up the name of a child who's just been killed. He had been sat on, I think, and suffocated to death or something by several adults, CJ Lofton. But just how our children are, because of racism, because white people who are in positions of authority feel that Black people, Black boys, brown people, brown boys and girls, Black boys and girls, that they are dangerous by skin tone, simply, so much so that they just have to kill them, right away before, can never give us an opportunity to walk out of a situation like that, like any kind of situation, you know what I mean? And again, I'm not going to have the conversation about how the young, this boy who just killed these children, I won't have a conversation about him in that way right now. But the fact that he was murdered, he was killed, rather than being walked out of there. And the fact that these white boys consistently, these consistent, very weak and, very monstrous, they're very much monsters. These white boys walk out of all these situations that they have just murdered, just destroyed, because of their smallness. And it continues to happen, is an indication and a reflection and an example of how racism works. They have this power behind their skin tone. So anyways, though, while we're talking about thoughts and prayers, clearly these situations are, pretty intense, pretty, it's just a lot to have to consistently deal with this. And then we're expected to show up, to our jobs. Black and brown individuals are expected to show up to our jobs each day. And that's just one part of our lives. That's not the extent of our lives. That's not the poverty. That's not also the poverty that we might be dealing with every single day. That's not also the supervisor who we're going in to work with, who is absolute, micromanaging monster. It's not the fact, we have just so much that we have to deal with every day. And please don't think that it's my supervisor I'm talking about, because I actually, this is just the second time I think in my life, the second job where I've had an amazing supervisor, so don't think I'm talking about mine, because I'm not, but I have had some absolute horrible, monstrous supervisors, like every Black person, because white people are in positions of authority way too often, and they often, don't acknowledge and recognize and are not held accountable to the racist actions and behaviors that they have, because other white people are looking on who are also racist in their behavior and their actions and their psychology. So they don't see anything wrong with the way that they're treating Black and brown people. They don't acknowledge that there's a difference between them. And then their whole system of leadership is completely, I don't cuss, so a word just came to mind. There's a confession for you. There's a confession. But their system of leadership is completely whack, completely whack, generally speaking, generally speaking. And you ask any Black and brown individual, and you're going to find that they probably use more colorful language than I'm using, But anyways, though, and then we have these thoughts and prayers, Then we have these incidents occur. We have January 6th happen, and these white folks go up in there and do all kinds of, just insurrection, like you are trying to take our country over with all of your, I mean, you're not just trying to take our country, our country over. Like, you have broken into, Congress or whatever they broke into, and we're getting 6 months and, a year. People died that day, and and the only reason why they were not mowed down by gunfire was because it was a bunch of white people. White people will let white people destroy our country, and they're destroying it every single day. The fact that, thoughts and prayers is the response right now after 19, fourth graders, third graders, 19 children, I believe it's fourth graders, 19 babies were killed. The fact that we are not all collectively acknowledging that these innocent babies were mowed down by an individual who should not have had a gun, and not thinking back to, not making the connection to the fact that these gun laws are way too lax, because it keeps happening. The 18-year-old who just killed all of our brothers and sisters in Buffalo, we're not acknowledging, that that these gun, like, that's not a part of the conversation. We're just simply thoughts and prayers. We're just living in a very difficult time, because I've only lived in this century era, these last 40 plus years, and I wasn't there during Malcolm X's time, or Dr. Martin Luther King, or, so many of our greats, their time frames, it's difficult to think of, compare the difficulty in each situation. Sometimes because of how and what they were fighting, I think that, we kind of try to make comparisons on that. So sometimes I feel like it's more difficult now, primarily because, racism and the responses that we have to it are not so out and in your face like they were in the South during Dr. King's time, or like they were during slavery time. They're more insidious and they're just kind of more hidden, anyway, so, but with whatever it is, it's clearly a very difficult time that we're in. And if no one else has told you already, if no one else has made it clear to you that thoughts and prayers it's not something that we want right now in this moment, that, parents don't want, I have 6 children who are mine, 4 of them who are still in school, 1 in elementary, 2 in middle school, 1 in high school. And the thought of something like that occurring, with my children, and so thankfully we're in a school system here where the doors lock well, yay, and yay, because that's the first line, that should be the first physical line of defense. We should have locked doors, that, so, that's a good thing. Unfortunately, a lot of times, children are not protected within the school, so we have so much bullying going on. We have so much, retaliation, from teachers and parents, I'm not going to say parents, because I don't know that I won't put parents in there. We do have it from teachers. Unfortunately, we have teachers who retaliate against students. We have leadership who retaliate against parents. We have, so while we're talking thoughts and prayers, we don't need thoughts and prayers. We need you to get your stuff together. We need you to hold yourself accountable. We need you to sit down when you are not qualified to lead. And you're not qualified to lead if you are bullying children, if you are bullying parents, if you are threatening. You're not qualified to lead in that way. You're not qualified to lead if you don't understand your own racism, if you don't understand your own privilege, if you don't understand and are not willing to tap into and look into the experiences of your students that don't look like you, and accommodate and and do everything in your power to make sure that you're creating a space that they can be their full selves in. So, like, thoughts and prayers, we are so done with that. It's something to even see individuals, who are not even quiet about it, but they are, outright, making policies and procedures and plans that are clearly against and harmful to different communities, and then want to offer thoughts and prayers. Like, seriously, you know, are you actually talking right now? Are you actually writing posts and putting them out there that you feel like you're not feeling anything except for the fact that, you want to put something that says thoughts and prayers. Don't put thoughts and prayers out, especially if you are, a white person, especially if you are a white person. Okay. Especially if you're a white person who, demonstrably, I think that's a word. It is a word, but I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly or not. But if you have demonstrated by your actions, by the way that you vote, by the way that you carry yourself, by your bullying tactics and behavior, by your, retaliatory actions. And listen, I have been in lots and lots of different spaces. So please don't think that I'm talking about just one space alone, because I am not. I'm a Black woman. And unfortunately, because I live in this skin as a Black woman, I'm often in spaces where individuals, and whiteness is the culture is a lot of bullying and retaliation and mediocrity. Is that a word? It is a word. If it's not, if I pronounce it right, figure it out. But anyways, though, that's the culture. So because of that culture, a lot of their, actions, behaviors, decisions are based in that cesspool. Okay, it's just, that's just. And then when these things occur, because they're in positions of authority, they want to give thoughts and prayers. Just don't, just don't, go do some reading, step down. We love that. Step all the way down, just step down, step down, elevate Black and brown voices who do not look like you. Any Black and brown people whose voices are similar to yours and who have been congratulating you, let them step down too. Change our gun laws, make them more restrictive. We do that by voting. That means you've got to make that an issue for you. You've got to decide candidates on how they would vote on gun laws. That's what you got to do, or how they have voted on gun laws. You got to say, if you voted for us to have lax gun laws, but I like everything else about you, I'm going to not elect you because gun laws have become an issue. Make that an issue for you. Don't vote for them because they're going to protect your pocketbook. Make gun laws actually an issue. Like, do something, transform the system, because we actually can. Okay, people, like I said, I wasn't going to be on here long. It's been a rough couple of weeks. I did want to hold some space for us tonight, and just really express just the difficulty of existing in this moment. I so often, Black and brown people specifically, we hear individuals talk about our strength and our resilience and all that. What you see when you see Black and brown people who have been able to continue to rise and who keep going and who just don't quit, because we just don't, you see humans. That's what you're seeing. You see humans. Generally you're not seeing humans often, these weak-minded individuals who are controlled by money and influence and the prospect of, influence and the prospect of money. That's not human. When you see Black and brown individuals who fight for our basic human rights, who are not deterred because you lie in reports, or because you lie, and you because you do what you do as white people, and even Black people who act like white people. When you see others of us who are not deterred based on the things that we experience, please don't think that it has to do anything with, the strength that we have or some type of resilience. What you can do is, make sure that we go on vacation. Some of us would like to go on vacations. You could do an all expense paid vacation. That's what you could do. That's what you could do. Rather than offer thoughts and prayers, and rather than comment on our resilience. And you also can vote individuals out of office, and you can hold them accountable. You can speak to them often about their behavior. You can tell them to not give thoughts and prayers, but actually do something that would benefit the students, and make sure that it's measurable and that it's transformative and that it is followed up on often, so that we know that there's actual accountability for it. So like, there's a lot that you could do aside from, comment on our resilience and our strength and offer thoughts and prayers. Don't do thoughts and prayers. Just stop with it. We just don't do it. You know what I mean? Anyways, okay, people, it was a nice night. I apologize. You know what? I'm not going to apologize. I don't apologize for the very human space that I'm in tonight. I have been in a difficult space for about 3 weeks, really. Life has not been very kind. But it happens. We figure out how to keep it moving. But thoughts and prayers, keep them to yourself. Don't even text them. And please don't talk about your Jesus and how you're praying to him. Your Jesus wants you to do something. That's what he wants. Your Jesus actually wants you to do something, and you're doing something is not having conversations. It's not simply talking about how evil will, like, Jesus, please don't say that evil will prevail. Like, we know that, okay? But it does not always prevail if you did what you're supposed to do. Dr. Martin Luther King said, I think it was Dr. King, and I forgot the quote, but basically to the point of, the only evil prevails when good people are silent. You know what I mean? When good people do nothing, that's when evil prevails. So this, and I have this thing when it comes to Christians specifically, and, religious folks specifically, like, stop talking, because again, Jesus, as determined and as characterized and written about in the Bible, and we know there's lots of interpretations that whatever, we're not gonna get into all that, but if you read the King James Version or one of those alike, and it talks about the ways that he behaved himself, he didn't just sit back. He was a friend to the fatherless, to the motherless, to the poor. He made sure that they were fed. He actually cared about people. Most Christians today don't care. They're not, they just they're a joke. They 100% are a joke. You know what I mean? And if you don't know what Christian is, Christians Christ-like. They're supposed to be Christ-like. They're not even Christ-like. Okay. So especially Christians, please don't talk and offer thoughts and prayers, and don't even debate. Like, just stop talking. Okay. So yeah. No thoughts and prayers, folks. Vote folks out of office. Send money down to Texas, to Buffalo, over to Buffalo. Do your part to elect individuals, and to get individuals out of office who are allowing these things to occur. We create the world that we want to live in as people. We don't have to just sit back and take it. You don't have to just take it, okay? There are ways to get people into office who create the laws that we are governed by. You can legislate some stuff away. You really can, okay? Folks get real, they get unconfused, they get clarity when you talk about holding them accountable, okay? They get clarity, okay? So you got these folks, they was bullied, they sad, they confused, they're insane. Start holding them accountable and see how quick they forget all about the bullying and whatever else, and they shape up and try to do the right thing, okay? You can legislate some stuff away. You actually can. You can put enough pressure on folks where they will step down from office. The pressure that I'm talking about, to be clear, is there are emails that you can send. There are conversations that you can have with them. There's specific voting things that you can do to say, I'm not voting for you. And I'm asking everybody in that I know and in my space that there are things you can do, legal things that you can do, upright things that you can do. And you ought to be doing them, okay? You ought to be doing them. There's much that we can do. And especially if you're Christians, just like, don't talk, even our white allies, like, unless you've done a whole lot of work on yourself, and to not center yourself, in this moment, just sit back, don't be out there supporting each other. Like, we don't uplift folks who are evil. No matter what they're saying, you just don't. But anyways, though, folks, I hope y'all taking care of yourself. I have definitely been. I went to, like I said, on this trip this weekend, and it was absolutely amazing. Of course, I didn't know we was coming back to experience Texas yesterday, but the weekend was absolutely amazing. It was very, very refreshing, something I really, really, really needed. So that was really nice. We need those types of things to take care of ourselves. I'm encouraging you to take care of yourself. This stuff, we're humans, and it's affecting us. The one way for me to process this stuff, I have to figure out solutions. That's just how my brain and my piece works. I gotta be working to do something. Sometimes I take it easy, usually at night I'll try to take it easy. I know how to, get my self-care in. But definitely work on your self-care, Black and brown people specifically, allies, work on yours as well, because you're attempting to do something that you should be doing. Thank you. Why am I saying thank you for you wanting to be human, but thank you, because not everybody's trying to be, not every white person's trying to be human. But yeah, so let's take care of ourselves. We'll be back at it in a couple weeks with a guest. And I appreciate you all for sticking with the Meeting of Diverse Minds. I apologize. I can't apologize. I keep doing that. I want to apologize, but I shouldn't, so I won't. But I appreciate you all for sticking with the Meeting of Diverse Minds. I'm hopeful that sometimes something is said here that might be of benefit to somebody somewhere. Today, I don't know that I care if it is or not, because, it was just one of those days. But yes, please join us again in a couple weeks, and I'll talk to you all later. Bye.